Both the POCO F5 and Honor 90 are targeting different markets with their respective set of features and price tags, but Honor 90 has been making quite a noise with its offerings, as you can see from our 1-month review from several days ago. Link below if you haven't seen it yet. The POCO F5 is undoubtedly the best overall upper mid-range phone right now in terms of overall features, from the design, the battery, to performance and camera. What makes it great is the price tag it comes with. Honor 90 is far from being affordable in comparison, but it has its advantages over POCO F5, like the 200 megapixel camera, the beautiful curved OLED screen, and the half a terabyte storage. But if you're one of the people who's just interested in their camera performance, regardless of the price and the features, you just want to see whether that 200 megapixel camera can beat POCO F5's impressive hardware, here's a side-by-side comparison of photos and videos for you, starting with night mode. Taking a picture of a night cityscape with each phone's main camera in night mode, there's a huge difference already right off the bat. The POCO F5 favored a cooler tone but closer to the actual scene during that time. But the detail preservation even with night mode doesn't compare to Honor 90's despite its unnatural warmer look. However, you do get a sharper and brighter image if that's what you're going for. But even then, I think Honor 90 holds an advantage here over POCO F5. In broad daylight with the main sensors, there is another huge difference. Honor 90 remains consistent with its warm tone, but the colors look more saturated than normal, making it more vibrant in this comparison. Although POCO F5 seems to be natural with its photo, it is slightly underexposed. If it were slightly brightened, it would be closer to the actual appearance of this view. Sharpness-wise though, I think they are more similar than different even when pixel peeping. Switching to ultrawide sensors, both photos actually look closer to real life with their natural colors and exposure. Their wide field of view is nearly the same, but POCO F5 is 8 degrees wider at 120 degrees. There's still a bit of over-processing left from Honor 90, as seen from its nearly teal sky and the over-sharpened edges of the buildings. But for an 8 megapixel sensor, POCO F5's ultrawide camera isn't that far from Honor 90's 12 megapixel in terms of detail. Moving indoors with limited lighting, the battle of ultrawide cameras continues to be close. While the colors are similar, POCO F5 does well in clearing noise as seen from the edges of the photo. But Honor 90 makes it up for more details, partly thanks to its higher megapixel count. Switching to main sensors, there are a couple of things worth noting here. In terms of colors, POCO F5 got the most accurate rendition of colors, and if you look at the background, you can see the imperfections of the wall. Basically, this is a sharp photo, but with Honor 90, the wall is almost blurry to a point. However, the stuffed toy in front is very sharp. That's because the plane of focus of the 200 megapixel is so thin that there's a bit of separation between the subject and the background. But how do the cameras fare when it comes to a person? Using the main camera once again with plenty of natural lighting, this is where HDR on each device gets tested. With POCO F5, you can see POCO's HDR kicking in as it lightens up the shadows on the rails as well as the back of the clothing of the subject. The photo almost has a near perfect exposure with little to no highlight clippings. As for Honor 90, it almost seems as if there's a filter applied to the photo. There's a lot of contrast and the vibe almost seems like classic or vintage. This is definitely not how it looked during that time, but if we look closer at the skin tone, Honor 90, despite its 200 megapixel sensor, did some smooth softening wherein POCO F5 preserved the natural skin tone of the subject as seen from its sharper output. With portrait mode though, neither did a good job of delivering a natural bokeh effect. Both were set at f2.4 aperture in their respective camera app, but Honor 90 really did go overboard with its subject separation effect. As for the cutouts, both phones did an average job. Where Honor 90 really shines though is in selfies. With its wider and sharper selfie camera, it wipes the competition with the F5 overall. While Honor 90 gave us a really good looking shot here, the F5 in comparison looked like it came from a webcam, a decent one by today's standards at the very least. Now we're done with photos, it's time to see videos. We set the main camera at 4K at 30 frames, although there is a 60 FPS option on POCO F5, we recorded 30 frames to keep the competition fair. Here, we see that POCO F5 has adjusted to a better exposure than before. It is slightly brighter and thus closer to the actual look of the city, whereas the Honor 90 remained with its saturated and warm look. Furthermore, POCO F5 has a sharper 4K video and a better dynamic range as seen from the shadows of the trees. Switching to ultrawide, both phones are capped at 1080p at 30 frames, but despite the nearly identical colors and look, the Honor 90 has sharper details, thus looking more pleasant. Back to the main cameras, but this time with limited lighting. It's hard to discern the sharpness between the two, but POCO F5 nailed the color accuracy here. Both did a good job of keeping the noise minimal in the darkest part of the subject, albeit the Honor 90 went a little too deep in the black area. Both are near identical in sharpness. With ultrawide, the Honor 90 struggled to keep the subject in the right exposure as seen from its blown out highlights and whites. However, both are trying their best to keep noise in the video minimal. Honor 90 did better in keeping noise minimal as much as possible while producing better detail preservation, but the edges of the frame really look noisy though. Going back to the selfie camera, that's another big win for Honor 90. First and foremost, Honor 90 is capable of 4K 30fps video recording in ultrawide, thus the massive difference you are seeing right now, while the POCO F5 can only go up to 1080p. Yes, the detail quality of the Honor 90 will level with POCO F5 if both were shot at 1080p, but the colors will stay the same as well as the field of view, so still, it's the Honor's advantage on this one. So basically, that's the comparison between the POCO F5 and the Honor 90 when it comes to camera. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. But for this comparison, that's it for this one. Drop a sub or like if you feel like supporting the channel. And as always, until the next one, stay safe.